Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
So, over the past couple days, numerous new allegations have been placed on Jack Doherty, as his ex-girlfriend McKinley Richardson would go on a podcast and speak out on the hell that she went through when dating Jack. And as bad as you think it could have been, believe me, it was much worse. Everything from being manipulative, sexual assault, and even getting his employees and her addicted to substances. It's safe to say that Jack Doherty is more cooked than he ever has been. And today, we're going to be taking a look at everything. No, I wasn't initially going to make a video on this podcast, because it is a very sensitive topic, and McKinley clearly did go through a lot. However, I realized that a lot of the things I previously covered on this channel were actually confirmed when I watched the entire podcast. And I feel like it's also extremely important to recognize what McKinley went through, and also how terrible of a person Jack Doherty actually is. With one of the main points being the manipulation tactics that Jack would use on his own girlfriend. When Jack and McKinley first started dating, McKinley was very adamant that she did not want to do OF. And at the time, Jack would even state that that's something that he liked about her, something that he found attractive, and he would even claim it to be wife material. However, over time, things would begin to change a lot. Jack would begin to pressure McKinley into creating an OF in some pretty manipulative ways.
He ends up this one night taking me to dinner, and he was like, I want you to come with me. I'm meeting up with my business guy. I'm not saying his name. We end up going. It's a really nice dinner. It's with a bunch of other people I had never met before, but it was this older guy. Jack introduced me to him. We start talking a little bit, and he just brings up, so why don't you have an OnlyFans? This man, he's like in his 40s.
And you've never met him before?
Never had met him before. I was like, well, it kind of caught me off guard, especially like coming from an older man. I was just kind of like, that's the first thing you say to me is, why don't you have an OnlyFans? I was like, it's against my morals. That's all I said. I was like, it's just the way I was raised. Like, I that's something not in the cards for me. And I'm firm on that. And he said, fuck your morals.
Now, this is really strange considering the fact that McKinley said that Jack was the one person throughout their entire relationship early on that supported the fact that she didn't want to do OF. So it's really weird how Jack would take her on a business meeting where there are people literally saying fuck your morals and asking her why she doesn't have an OF yet, as if it's just a normal thing to do. If I had to guess, Jack probably told them to ask McKinley that question and persuade her down the path of creating an OF. And even though McKinley was still saying that she 100% didn't want to do it at the time, it's safe to say that Jack wasn't having it.
I'll never forget this night. Michelle walked into the bathroom I was in. I was by myself, and she basically told me, listen, don't freak out, but Jack really wants you to start OnlyFans, and he said that there's no reason for you guys to be together if you're not helping. I broke down in tears. I was like, wow. Everything that he had said to me, like, oh, I know you're my wife because you don't have one, and getting me to go to dinner and try to get me on OnlyFans, but it didn't work. Now it's an ultimatum. He wanted me, when he realized he didn't have the control over me when it came to other people and like what they could say, he realized that he did need to create an ultimatum for me. And that was hard for me, and he knew that. He knew what I felt and how I felt about him and the whole situation, and I cried, and I was like, let me talk to Jack. Like, I just need to talk to him. I was thinking, you know, if I go and talk to him and just say, you know, this is how I feel about this, like, he'll respect it again. And like, if he sends me home and doesn't want to be with me because of this, then like, I guess it is what it is. But I didn't want to lose that. And that was what I was like prioritizing. It wasn't what I could make on OnlyFans. I had no idea. I had no idea how much money you could make on OnlyFans. I just knew that I really liked this guy. But I remember walking into the room that he was in. He was alone also with one of his employees, and I walked in and they just start laughing because Jack had never brought up OnlyFans to me, so it was like,
because he made everyone else do it.
Very awkward. Yeah, he made everyone else do it. It's sad looking back on it because that was something I respected. I was like, I respect the fact that he cares about my beliefs and he understands that. After talking to him, I was explaining how this is not in the cards for me, Jack. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, my parents, like, I can't even imagine what they would think if I did this. And he was like, your parents are going to get over it. Like, they're going to realize how much money you're going to make. And I was like, am I though? Like, I had no idea. I was like, am I going to make money? I don't know. And they were like, you are going to be very well off. They were like, this is going to be the biggest success ever. And Jack was telling me, he was like, you're going to be, you know, my main girl. Like, we can post together. We can finally act like boyfriend and girlfriend. We can start doing things together. And like, it's not reasonable for you to be in my life if you're not involved in my life.
It really just seemed like this was the final straw for Jack. To be honest, knowing the guy, he's probably been plotting this from the very beginning and manipulating this girl into think that, you know, he's her safety net. He can take care of her physically and emotionally. emotionally, and all of these things, whenever in the end he didn't actually care about her. He didn't actually care about her beliefs or anything like that. He just wanted to use her and mentally abuse her to be his eventual content girlfriend. And unfortunately, that would be the ultimate outcome.
I tried to shut down the conversation and I just agreed to it. And in my head, I was like, I am not doing this. I'll have a conversation with him tomorrow and I'll just be like, listen, I've been thinking about it. I can't do it. Like, that's where my head was at. But I just literally, I wanted to stop the conversation. I was so uncomfortable. I had Michelle and his other employee and him just like telling me how successful it's gonna be. And that was something that I didn't know for sure. I didn't know if like I would start it and then like my parents would never speak to me again. I was fully preparing myself for that. I woke up and that morning he had a contract in hand and he told me to sign it. I didn't even have the opportunity to talk to my parents about it or for any legal representation. He gave me the contract and he basically just said sign it. I read through it and I didn't like how it said, he owns all of my social media accounts because again, I had a following. I had 500,000 followers on TikTok. I had over 100K on Instagram. That was something I had built for years. And that was something that I held very close to me. So I was like, I just want to make sure like in this contract, do you actually own all of my accounts, even the ones that I have? And then he was like, no, the contract means nothing. Like we can change anything, but it's whatever, just sign it. So I signed it, and then first words that came out of his mouth were, "You're now Jack Doherty's girlfriend."
This guy's the biggest fucking scumbag on planet Earth. This guy literally manipulated McKinley and then lied straight to her face as she was signing basically her entire life away on this contract. And guys, if you really think about it, he emotionally abused her into signing this by acting like her girlfriend for I think the past year prior to this, to where now he has complete control over all of her social media accounts, and he's likely taking literally all of her money that she's gonna make from OF and paying her a small portion. And by the way, what makes all of this even worse is that he would even begin putting content before her physical well-being by putting her in very dangerous situations. As I'm sure most of you guys remember the golf cart clip, whenever he flipped a golf cart and she was critically injured, to which he would just brush it off and continue streaming, and in the hospital go see her and begin filming her saying tons of outlandish things.
He flipped an entire golf cart on top of me on purpose, and it was for a clip. I know that because he was trying his best to flip it. And you can see in the footage, the only thing that he was looking for was the camera to see if they got it.
Oh, fuck.
I was in so much pain. He thought it was not that big of a deal. I was like, Jack, I need to go to the hospital. I was crying. I couldn't even walk. My back was so bruised up and like my whole entire spine was just bruised. And my neck, it had hit my neck. It literally could have killed me. The way it fell on top of me, it fell on my side. The back of the cart went at the back of my neck and I crunched over and then it hit my back. He said that he thought it broke my neck. And I'm like, if you really thought that and you're like not worried about me, that's insane. When I'm on the way in the Uber and I'm sitting upright, I'm realizing like this is bad. Like I'm in pain. I definitely need to do something. And I walk into the house, everyone is there. They looked at me and were like, we need to go to the hospital, like we'll go with you. So they were kind enough and realized, they watched it live and they were really pissed off at him for acting that way and, not caring about my well-being and not making sure I was okay. And when I went, Jack had met me there and he had a camera. I was so embarrassed because I'm like, I'm in the hospital, you're filming all of these things. He was like, you're the baddest one in the hospital on video. And I was like, I'm just not in the mood for this. But he was filming and they gave me medicine and I went back home. I was in bed for about a week and I was back to normal. But his joke, I guess, of everything, he bought a golf cart the day after it happened and then surprised me with it for a video. And it was like all just a joke and funny to him.
This is borderline just criminal activity and genuinely is just abuse on so many different levels. I genuinely don't get why McKinley would decide to stay with Jack after this point, knowing the kind of things he said about her and the things that he did to her. Like not only did he flip the golf cart, but he also brought cameras in the hospital whenever she clearly didn't want to be filmed and just publicly humiliated her. She most likely just had to stay with him because she was still under contract, but it still doesn't disregard disregard the things that he put her through. And debatably, things would only continue to get worse from here. In some of my previous videos, I did cover the golf cart clip, but I also went over the instance of McKinley being robbed, as Jack and his crew would be in a giant bus in the middle of Compton doing a takeover, and McKinley would decide to stay in the bus, which would ultimately get broken into by a guy with a gun, a ski mask, and also a giant bag. McKinley stated that she thought she was actually going to die in this situation, and Jack seemed to be more interested in posting content about it than actually caring for McKinley.
What'd they do? What the fuck? Got robbed?
Yeah.
Wait, what'd he do?
I don't know.
Wait, did he take your stuff?
I think.
What the fuck?
No, I said where's my baggies to get your fucking bag.
He took your purse?
I don't know.
McKinley, where?
Oh my god.
Where's the key? Where's the key? Okay.
But that was the most real trauma ever. Like it was a noise that had never came out of me before. I was freaking out. Jack was, yelling at me. He was like, what happened? What happened? And I'm like shaking. I'm like, I can't even like explain what happened. I don't know. And it was obviously very, very traumatic for me. And I was like, please shut the cameras off. Like, I cannot, like, please take me off this camera. And he refused.
Live.
But I just started it.
Like, why?
Because this is like fucking great.
Everything's great content for you.
But
I
it
just
happened.
fucking died.
But you're alive. Let's share the story. Come on, I thought you agreed
Fuck
to.
you.
You're
for
gonna
thinking that's okay.
tomorrow though. You're gonna be so happy
But,
we
like,
recorded this. You know that.
Maybe record it, but going live again.
'Cause it
right
gets
now,
clipped, you're gonna see it on TikTok.
It doesn't matter.
It
doesn't
does.
fucking matter.
I'm doing
For
this.
once, please. I'm asking, please.
If we record it, it makes it easier.
He refused to shut off the camera. He refused to stop his live stream. He was laughing about it, saying like, well, you're gonna wake up tomorrow and like you're gonna wake up to all these TikToks and like these viral clips. And I'm like, Jack, I don't care. I'm like, everything is content. Like, I don't know what isn't anymore. Like, even this, like, you can't just feel a little bit of empathy for me after going through that. And he continued his live stream. He didn't listen to me. And I was like, what more does it take for you to just respect me? And what happened to you? What happened to the guy that made me feel safe in the beginning? Like, this was horrible. And now you don't care. And I realized in that moment, I was like, this man doesn't fucking care about me. You don't care.
After watching this entire podcast, I feel like it's just so apparent that Jack never actually cared about McKinley. Well, maybe he did, but he only cared about her in a way that he could benefit himself. He emotionally manipulated this girl into becoming his girlfriend just so he can use her for content and also force her to sell her soul to OF. I've seen a lot of people saying, well, why didn't she just leave the situation? Or it's her own fault for even associating herself with Jack Doherty. But maybe she really didn't know the kind of person Jack Doherty was going into meeting him. Maybe she actually fell in love with this guy and trusted that he had the right intentions for her. But obviously that's not the case whatsoever. Obviously we have to also consider the fact that she was lying in this situation, which even though I personally don't believe she was lying, I mean, none of this stuff has actually been proved, so we have to say that it's alleged. Everything in this video is completely alleged and could be false, but let me know what you guys think about it in the comments down below. I also encourage you guys to watch the podcast itself. Part 2 just came out today, but they are pretty long, so I just decided to make a condensed video kind of going through some things that I thought were interesting and things that I had previously talked about in my personal content. Anyways, I appreciate you all for watching. It's been your boy Janky, and I'm out. Peace.